Yeah. Uh.
From the Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. I am so excited. I'm really falling out of my seat to be joined by Felton Pilate from ConFunkShun. I mean, you know they've
Hey.
been all over the news with the recent Grammy wins and the recognition and the nod, but so many phenomenal songs that have become the soundtracks of our lives. So many gold albums, platinum albums, just so many awards. And personally, and I know you've heard things from so many people, the music has helped us through so many moments of tenderness, trying to express ourselves, tripping over our toes, and just also trying to have some fun and bring the funk. So thank you so much, Felton, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely, and big shout out to Desiree Benson, as she likes to say, the best publicist in the nation, for bringing
Yeah.
us together.
Yes.
But I like rolling back the clock, and I know you've done it before, and just talking a little bit about your family. And it was of note to me and interest that your dad was a medical officer in the military, and I know you had
Yes.
moved around a bit before you settled in Vallejo. Tell us about some of those early years, and then we can drift into how the
Wow.
music played into that.
Before I was 5 years old, I can remember at least three different places that we lived in: Chicago, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and Jackson, Mississippi. You know, my dad was now. I wasn't old enough to be aware that that's why we were moving around.
Right.
I just and when he finally got stationed at Mare Island, which is in Vallejo, California,
Yeah.
um, to get settled, and since at least one of my sisters had been born, what they did was they left me in Jackson, Mississippi, with my grandmother for almost a year
Oh wow.
until I
Okay.
turned 5, and then I and literally put me on a plane by myself to get to Vallejo. Um, uh, his his medical thing didn't have a big effect on my life until later. After he retired from the military, and he was the first uh, black-owned doctor's office in Vallejo. So that was very very cool. That was big. Musically, my dad was into jazz. He was into Count Basie, Duke Ellington, uh, Frank Sinatra. If it was jazz, you name it.
Yeah.
My mother was a music major, and she was into classical music. So
Mm.
Brahms. So every morning it was a race to see who was going to get to the. Pay attention. Here's a good word, to the hi-fi.
Yes.
Who
Yes.
could,
We hear that
who
that
could get
often.
who could get to the hi-fi first and drop
Yes.
on a stack of albums. So if it was my
Mm.
dad, it was, like I said, Ellington, Basie,
Right.
whoever was jazz. If it was my mom, it was some, Brahms, Beethoven, very, So that's
Much more.
in my early years. That's all I was aware of.
Right.
Uh, both of those helped out later, but and there's always been a piano in my house for as long as I remember. So I've been fooling around with music since a very young age.
Sure.
Uh,
Right. And I want to say that I know that piano is sort of your first instrument, so to speak. And I want to talk a little bit about the person who inspired you with that and sort of encouraged you to really tickle those ivories.
yeah, that was actually that was my third instrument. I started off in fifth grade.
Hmm.
I really, really, really wanted to play the drums. So when they were asking for band instruments, I gravitated toward the drums. But after a couple of days, they said, "Well, we've got more drummers than we have drums. We have to switch." Um, somebody, so we need some volunteers. Felton,
Right. Exactly.
you're moving to trumpet. So trumpet became my main instrument for several years. Um, so I took formal trumpet lessons. Uh, but there's still a piano in my house. I'm still
All the time.
technically getting it on my own. So my mother pulled me out of trumpet lessons and put me into piano lessons. There was a young lady named Tanya Erickson who would drive to Vallejo for my piano lessons. She was a wonderful teacher, and what she did to help me um, get my own is that the last 15 minutes of every session
Mhm.
was she put the music away and she would
Mm.
just do ear training.
Ah, very good.
She'd play a C for me, and one, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, right? She's just a scale, and so she would have me sing back to her. Now, we're not even talking about piano. If that's C, sing a G, or one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. If that's one, sing five, or sing
Mhm.
three, or sing seven. And so she helped develop my ear, which was invaluable. So
Right.
big shout
Yeah.
out to her. I have no idea where she is or where she's been for these last years.
Sure.
Uh,
Right.
but big help.
We'll say 27 again. Absolutely. And to what extent do you feel that the music that you were not only surrounded by, but also some of the music that you were hearing, because I know it's probably a little bit maybe more rock and roll, started to influence you in terms of you developing your own sound?
Wow. Well, always the experimental person. I'm
Mhm.
taking piano lessons, and a friend of mine, my best friend, the first person I met when I moved to California, who lived almost across the street, but his name was Alan Gerlin. Right, Alan loved music, wasn't particularly musically inclined, right,
Right.
but absolutely loved music. Um, and I do have to mention that the library,
Mhm.
the family library, was located in my bedroom.
Right. Okay.
And so I had a whole wall of books, right? And, the classics, the encyclopedias, blah, blah. And a gift that my mother had given to me, it was called All About Electricity,
Hmm. Okay.
which I had no interest in
Sure.
whatsoever.
Right.
That was my least favorite book now. So meanwhile, Alan's parents had bought him a guitar, and I'm like green with envy. I'm like, man, I want to play guitar. I'm trying to talk my mom into buying me a guitar. She's like, no, I bought you a trumpet.
Yeah. And piano lessons.
I've got piano lessons, and blah, blah. You're not even practicing. Yeah, 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 yeah. What was that? I was like, money doesn't go on trees, blah, blah. So
Exactly. Yeah.
anyway, one Christmas, this was a magic day. I gotta give Alan something for Christmas. I'm gonna give Alan this electronics book that I don't want anyway. So I took it, and we met each other crossing the street. He was bringing me his guitar,
Oh, wow. Okay. Nice.
so I got my first guitar from Alan Gerlin, a musician. He took that book.
Mm.
Last I know, he had started. He had started his own electronics store. So I mean, we really
Literally, guys.
uh, shaped each other's lives here.
Wow. Sure. Talk about a poetic
So
moment.
along the lines of the guitar, so I had already asked Mrs. Erickson, how do you tune a guitar, right?
Sure.
So she explained to me tuning, right? And so
Yeah.
I was already, kind of familiar with, okay, what notes make a C,
Sure.
and what makes an F, what makes a G, blah blah blah. So
Yeah.
so once you told me how to tune it, I'm like, so let me see if I can figure this out. If I need to make a C chord, I need to change this B to a C. Okay, I need to
Mm.
change this chord to E somehow. Yeah, and I basically taught myself, 5 or 6 chords, by figuring out, wait a minute, on paper first. So by
Mm.
the time I got the guitar, hey, I got this.
Okay.
Um, uh, I was asked by a gentleman who lived around the corner from me.
Hmm.
Um, he was a year older than me, and
Right.
he had an older brother a year older than him.
Hmm.
Um, and his brother was like the thing in Vallejo. Like every weekend, his picture was in the paper somewhere. He's playing a son. Really talented young man. You know, he, at this point was a senior, but a very much in demand musician in Vallejo. Right? And his brother was apparently tired of living in his older brother's shadow, so he's going to start his own band. Right?
Okay, that's what
Um,
started.
and he asked me to play guitar. Now I'm literally brand new at guitar, right? You know,
So
I uh, but I said yes, and so we're like a couple of songs in. I'm picking up as I go along,
right.
and he announced that we're going to do the song Alfie. Right?
Mm, yes.
Um, and at that point, I loved Alfie, Dionne Warwick's version of
Yes.
Alfie, and my voice had not officially changed over at that point.
Yeah.
You know, and so I could sing Alfie perfectly. I thought I could. You know,
Sure.
and I and when you said it, I immediately blurted, "Oh, cool! I want to sing it." You know, it's my first band. I don't know the the protocols of it was going. This is his band,
Right.
and he gave me that look. He's like, "You go
Right.
sing?"
Sure.
I tell you what, why don't you go on an audition next Saturday? So I did.
Hmm.
Following Saturday, I'm the march. I mean, he literally lived right around the corner. Marched
Right.
over his house and stood there while he played piano.
Hmm.
And I thank him to this day for being probably the biggest inspiration to
Wow.
get me where I am today. Because he told me, Felton, if I were you, I would stick to playing guitar because you
Mm,
will never ever make it as a singer.
wow.
I quit, started my own band.
I was just going to say, you probably didn't come across with the same insight that you have now.
Right,
Not
right.
quite.
I quit and started my own band, as the rest, as they say, is history. Right.
Exactly, sure. So that was some of the inspiration. One point I didn't want to lose, although he may not have had as much of an influence on you when you were super young, but given the fact that you were from Mississippi, we know certainly one famous influence in funk comes from Tubalo. Just tell us about sort of how you became familiar with his music or started to even into or even know some of the types of things that James was doing that were so unique at that time.
I was not James Brown. Honestly speaking, was not much on my radar because
Right,
of uh, because of the music that was going on in my house. You know, my dad when he was not listening to jazz, he had tuned to the pop radio
right,
station,
sure.
and I didn't really become familiar with James Brown's music until I had to start playing it.
Mhm, mhm.
Right? You know, and my first James Brown song was called Sweat.
Right.
Right. Um, and so like that was a whole learning songs as a top 40 band
Mhm.
was a whole other world for me, you know, especially from a guitar playing point of view, you know. So that was and the more songs we picked up, I was like, man, my mind was getting so open to new possibilities here of funk and groove and mind bending. Um, and then later studying how the drums and the bass interacted with the guitars and then work with the horns, and it was I don't even know what to say. Major education.
Sure, sure. Tell us about that moment at which you kind of felt like, I know because I'm getting a little money here. I think you were getting paid and you guys split up the fee. That this is really what I want to do. What age was it, and what was going on through your mind at
Oh,
that point? You had the confidence to say, this is not just a passing love.
um, I think I had a hint of that at a high school dance. I
Mhm.
I couldn't make a commitment, but there was a group called the Syndicate that was playing at one of my junior high school dances. I remember standing there watching for the entire dance, I just stood there and watched the band. That was my first real exposure to watching a live band.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I stood there and just watched the whole night. And I remember saying at a point, yeah, this is, I thought we wanted to do this, you know.
So,
Um, I had no expectations on what was going to happen with playing with a band. All I knew was that I enjoyed it. Uh, and in my second band, we were even, you know, throwing in, I think we had 5 or 6 original songs that
right.
we that we were tossing in.
Mhm.
So by the time Michael Cooper um, asked me to join Project Soul, you know, I had already gone through kind of a metamorphosis from just listening to jazz and classical to,
Right.
wow, I'm playing radio stuff, you know,
Right.
and I'm pretty good at it.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
w- Seriously, I had no expectations of making big money. I was just excited just to be able to get paid to do something I would gladly have done for free.
Right.
you know,
Sure.
you
Right.
know our break came when the Stax recording group, the Soul Children, asked us to be their backup band. That was in August of '72,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
wow, now with man, this is something that we can make big money doing here. You know, we're about to go out on tour. You know,
Wow.
and doing nothing but music. Wow, that's you know,
Sure.
life doesn't get better than this.
Sure.
you know, and every step that we took was a new level of reality. Oh, an eye-opening thing. Wow, this could really be happening for us.
Right. Tell us about how that came about, because it often seems to be one of the most difficult things to really. You can't engineer There's so many elements that go into that first big break. You're in California, Sax is out of the South. How did that sort of all come
Okay.
together? Connections and contacts.
Okay, well, let me go back to the previous year. The previous
Hmm.
year, the Soul Children were coming out to do a concert in Oakland at the Oakland Auditorium, right?
Yeah.
And they needed a backup band, and Project Soul's manager managed to negotiate for Project Soul to be the backup band. Now, I was still in my other band at the time, so Michael borrowed me for one concert to augment the horn section and play additional keyboards, right?
Sure. So he thought.
Uh, and so we had, even before I joined Project Soul, I had a chance to experience playing with them on stage, and my
Mm.
experience playing is being a backup band from a group that's come here out here from Memphis. So we rehearsed for several days, did the concert. Now fast forward to August of '72.
Mm.
Um, Michael and I heard that they were playing at a club over in Oakland,
Mhm.
and although we weren't really of legal age, we snuck into the club and literally planted ourselves on the floor while in front of the stage and watched the whole show. And Michael and I were talking to Norman, after the show, and he remembered us. And Norman was like, what are you guys doing now?" And I can't remember who, either Michael or I said, "Oh, we're just sitting around, waiting to be your backup band." And he went, "Really?" And he fired his band that night, sent them home,
Wow.
and we had 3 or 4 days to pack up and say goodbye. You're hired. So that's how that came about.
Did you ever find out sort of how that had happened, like that he was willing to just let them go and things like that? Because usually it's not quite that sporadic. Usually things are brewing.
uh, he never mentioned that things were brewing, but he remembered being very excited about us. Oh, wait a minute!
Mm.
I also have to go back to earlier, probably that summer.
Mm.
Earlier that summer, um, Rufus Thomas was doing a concert at the Hardy Theater. There was a big benefit going on for sickle cell anemia. Stevie Wonder was there, Donny Hathaway was there, Rufus Thomas was showing, and we had been told that we could play also, right? So we're there. We're just standing. The dress rooms are actually below the stage. Right? So we're there. We're warmed up. We're ready to walk up a stage and plug in and do our thing. Stevie's been on already. Donny Hathaway's been on already. This group, I can't remember what they were called, but they were a popular local Bay Area band. They had a 5-piece horn section, and we were watching them warm up with, their version of what's going on, all jazzy and stuff. We're like, man, I sure wish we could sound like them, They wound up that they were the band that Rufus was using. They were playing "Walking the Dog," right? And we're listening from downstairs, and we're like, dude, this show's almost over, and we've been promised we can go on. It doesn't look like it's going to happen, right? And Rufus and the band, they finished "Walking the Dog," and we hear Rufus announce to these 2,000 people who were there for this benefit concert, "Y'all hold on a minute, I'll be right back." And he sticks his head down the dressing room and said, "Is there a band out here that can play breakdown?"
Wow.
We had just learned. We know it. Y'all come up here. He walks up on stage and tells, "Okay, y'all can go." Apparently they didn't have the funk he was looking for. They had the musical prowess, but didn't, weren't good. And he was willing to let them go and have us plug in and try it. And so we plugged in, sight unseen. He stepped. I don't know why he stepped in front of me. Looked me dead in the eye. "You sure you know this?" I'm like, "Yes, sir." "All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Da da da. Magic.
Wow.
Magic.
Wow.
Now I'm telling you this because he heard that we were going to be on, that we had joined the Soul Children, right? That we were now their backup band, and he remembers. And we were scheduled to play on August 22nd and 23rd, which is just 3 weeks later after we left Vallejo, right?
Right.
Watts, every year they have the Watts Music Festival, right? This particular year, Stax Records offered to provide all the entertainment for this festival if the Watts Music would allow them to record a live album and make a movie make a live movie at the same time.
Wow.
Watts said sure, and that was called Watts Stax, right?
Yes. Right.
Rufus found out that we were going to be there and asked us also to back him up.
Wow.
So we went from being, popular Vallejo local band on August 1st to playing in front of 104,000 people at the LA Coliseum, while also making a live album and recording a movie. We always joke, man, we were too scared to make a mistake. So we played 3 songs for Soul Children, played 3 songs for Rufus Thomas, and we were on our way.
Right, double billing, literally. This is a great moment to have you set us up for a song, sort of from the earlier years that you love, and just so tell us a little about it, and then we'll take a listen.
Hey man, let's go with Breakdown by Rufus Thomas.
Sure. What a great setup. Yeah, just amazing every time. That was great. I wanted to hit on an element that you brought up because it's so critical: being prepared. And that moment, as you stated, look at how things change so much from not even knowing that you might have the chance to go on, and that has certainly happened with many groups for various reasons, especially if they're 5th, 6th, 35th. But then in that heat of the moment, really being prepared by, as you had said earlier, having such a wide plethora of songs and musicality and genres that you could cover. Speak to that for us a little bit, just in terms of a young band that may be trying to come up today.
Yeah. Okay. With that specific incident, I'm almost afraid of the fact that if we had not known Breakdown, we wouldn't have had a chance.
You today.
that was
Exactly.
just sheer luck. That was just God's blessing that we just happened to be ready at that moment. We were also ready when the Soul Children said, "Hey, can you guys come to Memphis? Yeah. Yeah. We were free and clear to make that move. You know, we were all going to the same junior college, Solano College, and it's okay. Well, you know, we can always come back to college. You know, and you know, parents are always telling us, well, you got to get that education.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you don't, but if you have an opportunity,
Yes.
yeah, man, you
Sure.
got to take. If the opportunity is saying here. Yeah,
Is that,
you got, man, yeah, you got to take it. You know, you got to take it. Um, Meanwhile, there's all those years of rehearsal and 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 striving for perfection. You know, I remember one of my first assignments after joining Project Soul was to do the vocal arrangements on Have You Seen Her? There's some 6-part harmony going. You know, Eugene record or record. I was never sure how to pronounce his name. Man, that man was a wonder at arranging vocals, and so they assigned me the job of breaking that down to work with the 6 voices that we're going to have sing on that, and we had a nice arrangement of that. So over the years, as a top 40 band, we kept getting compliments, and the ultimate compliment for a top 40 band is, "Damn, y'all sound just like the record, right?"
right.
And and in my mind, the only way to sound like just like the record is to play it just
Right.
like the
Right.
record. So that means not just learning the chords, you also gotta get in there and learn what inversion he played. Um,
Yes.
you know, I'm not talking about playing at. Don't play at it. Learn it, right?
Right.
And that
Sure.
helped out a lot when it's time for us to go into the studio, because you know we could pull from all of these artists that we used to perform. We used to do a lot of Philly stuff. We used to do a lot of stylistics, Blue Magic,
Mhm.
you know, OJ's, Harold Melvin. We used to play a lot of mandrill, uh,
Mhm.
uh, Ohio players, you know,
Right.
so Commodores, you know,
Mhm.
we
Mhm.
were we were able to pull from all that stuff that we learned from them, you know, when it came time to work in the studio, uh, and from our mentors. Uh, but they didn't know it, but
Right.
Chicago, Chicago, and Tower of Power. You know,
Right.
those
Yes.
group called Cold Blood.
Mhm.
Remember them out of Lydia Pitts and Cold Blood. You know, so when it came time to actually do our music, uh, we were ready. You know, we were already doing it. You know,
Sure.
so that was an easy step. You know, the hard part was weeding out all that huge amount of material that we had to settle on what was going to go on the album.
Right. And that's something I want to sort of tease out, finding your own sound. Talk to us about sort of that process and sort of how it evolved, because it seems to be one of the greatest challenges. First, like you said, to really master the music and appreciate the greats. But then ultimately, there has to be an evolution that occurs. And some may start there, but talk to us about that process and what you noticed of it as it occurred.
Okay. Um, Here's the best example I can give. There's a song that I wrote, um, and as I was writing it, I envisioned it as an OJ song, or
Okay.
as an Ozzy Brothers song, right?
Hmm.
Um, and when I was singing the vocals, that's how I approached it, right?
Okay.
But since I'm not a Levert,
Mhm.
since I'm not Ron Ozzy, what
Right.
falls out of my mouth is me,
Right. Mhm.
right? And that seemed to be how I kind of worked with the band in general, right?
Mm. Yes.
Almost no matter who we pull from, since we're not them, you
Right.
know, as we put our musical experiences, I'd even go as far to say as limitations, you
Oh.
know, I, I, I like Herbie Hancock. I
Yes.
can't. I bet I am nowhere close to. If I sit down and I aim this song at her beginning, I'm limited by what I can play. So what you wind up hearing is me.
Right.
Is what I'm saying? So it's that's basically what it came down to. This is us just trying to express ourselves in music as possible, and with Michael and myself as a writing team, and the way that we were in Memphis, we were a cohesive unit because we then depended on each other for survival. There were no other day gigs.
Right.
All we did was music. And
Mhm.
for that, we had to depend on the seven of us on stage and us being a cohesive, well-oiled machine. So that was I'd say that was part of our readiness, as you say. We went through this part of having to survive together doing
Right.
music.
Sure.
Um, that's about it.
The great setup for one of those early songs that you love and that you wrote, maybe with Michael, that you really feel like kind of started you to feel I'm on my way.
Wow. I On ConFunkShun's first album, Before Secrets, we had a song called Now and Forever, which was a song that I wrote, specifically for ConFunkShun.
Yeah.
And when we finished recording it, our engineer at that time, I think his name Scott Ives,
Yes.
and they were saying that they were going to hire a string section to come in and play strings on the song, right? And we're like, no, don't worry about that, because we're like, yeah, we don't have strings on stage. How are we going to duplicate that? And Scott said something that was key to this day. He said, no, don't worry about that. He said, you do whatever it takes to make the record sound good. If it's a hit, you can hire a string section.
Right.
If it's not, it doesn't matter.
You're right.
Yeah. So just from business point of view, it made perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, now and forever.
Hey girl, do you really think it's fair what you're doing? Teasing me when you know how much I want you, and I'll do anything to have you for my own, just mine and mine alone. Say babe, I'm not really asking too much of you, girl. All I ask is to hear you say the words that could make my dreams come true. Till the day that you give in, I'll ask again and again. Oh, now and forever. Now and forever. Won't you give all of your love to me? Won't you take the love that I'm trying to give you willingly? 'Cause you know it's yours to keep, girl, as long as you may live. Will the ring help you decide to stay here by my side? Oh, yeah.
And I want to go back for those that don't know, music is it's so timeless. How you came up with the name? I mean, obviously we know the funk's there, but just tell us a little bit about the genesis and really sort of moving to this genre. Because for many people, it couldn't be more appreciated. People, I think, sometimes love it without really even knowing what it is. The complexity is deeper than some people can appreciate. Many would say that of jazz, but I think that it's true of funk as well.
Okay. So you asked about the origins of the name.
Yeah, the name and sort of
Okay.
how you sort of alighted upon that musical genre.
Okay. Well, it wasn't about genre for us. This was a business decision because um, the recording studio that we were recording at, well, I have to back up a little bit and tell you about that. Once we had stopped working with the Soul Children,
Right.
we now have to, figure out how to make money on our own because we were determined not to go back to Vallejo less than how we left, right? So
Sure.
we had to become a success. So we were invited to, because we're the California boys, here in Memphis, right?
Right.
So we were invited to do a TV show. So we're all prepared, and they're like, "Okay, send us your tape." What tape? Oh no, you guys are gonna be lip syncing. Oh, we thought we were playing live. We don't have a tape. We don't have a tape. Well, you need to go in the studio and record one. So we went to the studio called Audio Dimension. A guy named Ted Sturgis ran the studio. And so we recorded, this is important. I do not remember what song we recorded for this TV show, right?
Right.
But he said, "Man, you guys sound great. You guys, you need to come out and record some more." So we took him up on his invitation. We had recorded, 8, 9, 10, 11, songs. And he said, "So one day we need to talk." He said, "One day we need to talk about the bill."
Minor details.
Bill?
Right.
Never said anything about charging us.
Oh, sound.
No, we're a studio.
Is that right? Right.
We charge X number of dollars an hour.
Everybody, we love your sound.
You have a bill of $9,800 at this point.
Wow. Oh my God.
And we're like, we don't have that. Man, we had no idea. Well, you don't have 9,800. Well, on the other hand, there's a recording contract that if you sign with me, we can just, we'll figure out something else. So it was one of those deals. So we went ahead and signed the contract with the Ted Sturgis and Audio Dimension Studios, and he became the producer of our first album.
Interesting.
So despite that, I'll say hokiness of getting us in the contract, that wound up being a blessing because it was through him that he negotiated a deal to get us to sign us with Estelle Axton, who was starting a brand new record label. Estelle Axton had joined together with her brother Jim Stewart to start a record company. So Jim Stewart. So they took the first 2 letters of his last name and the first 2 letters of her last name, Axton, to be Stax. They were the founders of Stax Records, but they booted her out. So she's now going to start her own label, right? And so we were being asked to be the first band on this brand new label, right? She also hired this other solo artist. His name was Rick Dees. He was her local DJ there in Memphis. Big major hit on him called Disco Duck, kind of a novelty record, but huge seller. So they signed the contract, and they came and spoke to us. Look, we're kind of concerned about your name, Project Soul, because we feel like the name might be kind of limiting.
Right.
So we were officially asking you to change your name.
Right.
Oh man. Okay. All right. So, man, that started an argument process that lasted felt like weeks. Felt like weeks. We got through, and let me pause that story. I'll come back to say, which reminds me of a story because I remember Lionel Richie talking about how they came up with the name Commodores.
Right.
He said what they finally decided to do was to take a dictionary, drop it on the floor, whatever page they came to, and point to word, and no arguments, no, it's just whatever. Whatever that word is, that's our new name. He said, Thank
Wow.
God, we were almost called the commodes.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
I love it.
Okay, so we argued and we argued. We knew that we didn't want the word "the" in front, and
Okay.
we didn't want an S in the back.
Okay.
So what happened before? I'm gonna go way back. We were doing a concert for the Sacramento State Fair,
Okay.
and the Nightlighters were there, right? They were the backup band for hold on, New Birth.
Yes, Newbert,
New
right.
Birth.
Sure. Right.
And they had an instrumental song called KG. You know, MFSB did a cover of the song. But anyway, they were out at the pool. The horn section was rehearsing, and then and we sat there and watched it, and we kind of learned the song just like listening to rehearse. The name of that song was called ConFunkShun.
Okay.
So that wound up being the only thing we could agree on. Well, let's just borrow that name. It sounds unique.
Sure.
And we presented the record company and said, that's fine. That brings up the interesting part. They were concerned about the word soul in our name, but apparently okay with the word funk in the name.
Right.
Go figure.
Yes.
All right.
Amazing how that's come out. Tell us one of your favorite songs on that album and why it is, and we'll take a listen.
Oh, on wait a minute, on which album?
Your first one.
Oh, the first one. Oh, okay. We'd already talked about Now and Forever. There was a song that I felt really good about. It was called Foley Park, and we basically dedicated that to the city of Vallejo, because Foley Park, you know, we used to do a lot of concerts there. So
Sure.
it was in retrospect, it had kind of a disco, almost Philly kind of sound.
Yeah.
That we kind of borrowed from, what was it? Do the Hustle, Van.
Yes.
What was his name? Van somebody?
Right. Was it Peoples and
Van McCoy. Van McCoy. Van McCoy. And that was us kind of borrowing the Van McCoy.
To come to local venues and concerts and things like that, you haven't kind of forgotten where you came from. Tell us just about how important that is to you as well, because it certainly is to us in the community and things of that nature. But sort of never forgetting your roots and where some of that comes from.
We felt we were ready in 1978. After living in Memphis for 6 years, and at that point we had already released the Secret album, the Secrets album, and it was already gone gold, and it was now actually time to record our second album. And we're like, okay, fellas, we've got a gold album.
Right.
We can go back home now, you know. Good time. Good time to go back home. We felt like, you know, we had kind of represented Vallejo or California as a whole while in Memphis and down south, but you know, we wanted to bring it home. That's the best way I can describe it. It was a good move, because then, you know, having the support of our family and being close while we did our next 3 or 4 albums was wonderful. You know, absolutely wonderful. We then brought some of that stuff that we had picked up from Memphis, and being on the road, and all that real life music. I'll say, yeah, real life music education back home, and it worked out well. You know, we hooked up with Skip Scarborough to produce our second album. We finally got a hold of him, but we're actually he wasn't my first choice. I actually didn't know enough about him yet. I was trying to track down David Foster, right?
Okay.
and so I have to share with you my David Foster story. I made a bunch of phone calls, and I don't know how it happened, but I did wind up somehow with his home number, and I and I called him at home.
Sure.
And he answered the phone. He's like, "Hello." I said, "Hi, Mr. Foster. My name is Felton Pilate. You probably never heard of me before, but anyway, I play with this group called ConFunkShun. I've been reading the stuff that you've been doing on Earth, Wind, and Fire. I'm really a big fan of your work. You know, I've whether you used to play with blah 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 blah. Yeah. So would you consider producing us?" Long pause.
Right.
Who is this, and why are you calling me? Oh, I'm sorry. So I started all over again from the top.
Sure.
And he listened to me politely the
Sure.
second time. And then he said, "I don't know who you are. Do not call me again." And he hung up. Anyway, that led us to meeting Skip Scarborough, which was a godsend. But I have to continue my David Foster story, because then we have to fast forward to no, I tell you what, I'll wait on that. But anyway, we wound up working with Skip Scarborough, who produced 4, maybe 5 of our gold albums, gold and platinum albums. Skip Scarborough was "Don't Ask My Neighbor" by The Motions. He did the Love Ballad for LTD.
Yes. So amazing.
Can't Hide Love, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Love's Holiday, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I wound up Giving You the Best I Got for Anita Baker. And co-wrote the title track of our Secrets LP. He and I co-wrote that. Just a Lovely Day, Bill Withers. You know, that's an amazing talent, a wonderful guy to work with. You know, real blessing.
Well, it's a good time to take a listen to that song, because, like I said, his reputation is just incredible, and we just had the Emotions on a couple of weeks ago talking about Skip. Let's take a listen.
Yeah.